Who among these Power 8 will get to lay their hands on that honors board? To make matters interesting, is a former champion in the mix, but it has been a while since he held that coveted title. He's joined by much accomplished competitors looking to engrave their names in the history books of this business quiz. The grand stage is all decked up for the grand occasion. It's an iconic clash, full of flavor, as our contestants belong to all parts of the country and bring with them distinct style to ice the cake with cream and cherry on top to end this fabulous season. A rousing reception and a wonderful welcome to all of you to the season summit, to the titanic tussle, to the big final of the 12th Udaan Business Leadership Quiz. It's organized by Steel Authority of India Limited, National HRD Network Ranchi Chapter and National HRD Network, and brought to you in association with our sponsor IILM University. And taking you through this momentous occasion, I am your host and quizmaster for the day, Ajay Poonia. Please join me in welcoming our 8 zonal winners and thus our national finalists looking to give themselves an early Christmas present. As participant 1, a rookie at this level, but going by how he started the East Zone final, he looked anything but. This is Abhishek Mishra from Sale Rourkela. As participant 2, a national champion from many moons ago, looking to kickstart a second innings of sorts with a win today. This is Sampath Mishra, also from Sale Rourkela. He's finally made his way to the national final after having come close in 2 previous editions. Always the one who never forgets to smile while competing. For behind that smile is a competent competitor. This is Francis Rodriguez from HDFC Life. Next on the list is a competitor whose qualification in the national final is never short of last-minute twists. A friendly reminder to the others to watch out for him at the end. His mantra, it's not over until it's over. This is Rajarshi Chanda from Fujitsu. Following Rajarshi, he is here after having defeated the national runner-up of 2 consecutive years. While the latter wasn't quite the 3rd time lucky he was seeking to be, our next competitor certainly is. But following determination and dedication and desire and many others, luck would be the last on the list of why he's in the national final, 3rd time of asking. He is Rohan Khanna from Varghese. Next up, no stranger to a stage such as this, the North Zone was a tough terrain, a group of death, of which he's more than just a survivor. He is Anand Raj from Sale Bokaro. While the zonal finals had 6 competitors, the starting lineup in the national final is a mile wide and also a mile deep. When about 3 to 5 answers were enough to secure a berth in the national final for other zones, the South Zone, or the home of champions, he got 8. He is Preetham Upadhya from Barclay. And finally, while others may have the skill and the talent and the ability, there's one thing that money can't buy, that's experience. Standing upright against a former champion in the zonal final, he brings a big bag of unparalleled experience. He is Cherian Varghese from Indian Oil. Well, well, well. How about that for a starting lineup? What else could one have expected for the national final? Deserves nothing but the best. And now I would request the nucleus of Udaan that make this event possible year after year, beginning with Sri Sanjeev Kumar, Executive Director, HRD, and Head of MTI SAIL to address our participants and viewers. Sir, please.
Thank you. Good evening, all of you. At the outset, let me congratulate all the finalists for a great performance in the prelims as well as the zonal finals. Udaan, as you all know, is a flagship annual event of NHRD and Ranchi chapter organized in association with SAIL MTI. This event is into its 12th year and is considered as one of the most coveted corporate quizzing events of our country. My compliments to the entire Udaan team comprising of Mr Ajay Poonia, Quizmaster, Mr Animesh Mahatre, platform designer, team from NHRDN led by Shri Dhananjay Singh, Nalin and Avinash, and of course, the team from SAIL MTI led by Rizwan for making sustained efforts to make Udaan at great heights. Quizzing has always been offering a great platform to self-development and inculcates a great learning environment. I'm sure the Udaan provides that opportunity to grow and learn the much needed overall business scenario and the big picture for taking up the leadership roles in future. My best wishes to all the national finalists and all others involved in making this happen. Good luck and thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Following him, may I request Dr. Kamakshi Raman, Executive Director, Indian Institute of Coal Management and President, NHRDN Ranchi Chapter. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Ajay, and a warm welcome to all of you, and congratulations to all the finalists. I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting game today. And we are already on the 12th year, flagship event of the Ranchi chapter, and third year in row that we are doing it on virtual platform. Let me start by thanking State Authority, MTI in particular, who has been involved in organizing Udaan right from the first year. So, no wonder it has become, quizzing has become a great learning event, very sought after learning event within the company. And my compliments to the entire organizing team, which is involved in Udaan 2022. And as Sanjeev had said, quizzing has always been a very effective learning tool, in addition to being a fun and an entertainment event. So one request from the Ranchi chapter to all of you who have emerged as the finalists, try and use your influence within your own organizations to guide or mentor and motivate more colleagues from your organizations and from your education institutions to take part in this, so that we are able to add up to the quizzing community amongst our organizations and wherever we are working. All of you are already winners. My best wishes to all of you. May the bestest amongst you be the winner in the Udaan 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. That's very thoughtful and interesting idea for our participants to consider. And finally now, the 12th Udaan Business Leadership Quiz is brought to you in association with IILM University. And so we have Dr. Arvind Chaturvedi, Director of IILM University. Sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. Poonia. At the outset, let me congratulate NHRD and all the HR stalwarts who are holding office for this excellent professional opportunity NHRD has been providing to the professionals and practitioners. One such important event organized by NHRD is this quiz, Udaan 2022, And there's no gain saying that it is one of the best way of learning. As you all know, this quiz competition is running now in its 12th year. And IILM group of institutions and IILM University has been supporting NHRD activities for the long term now. It is a strong partnership which has strengthened over the years. We at IILM also strongly support such events where a large number of HR professionals participate. Through this quiz, NHRD brings out the best of the talent, best HR talent from participating companies and individual participants. May I also congratulate participants as they have reached the final, which they have been playing in the true spirit of the competition. On behalf of IILM University, I wish all the participants good luck. I'm sure this would enhance the knowledge about HR practices and function and bring out the hidden talent. May the best team win. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much, helping let the eternal flame of Udaan burning. Right then, participants, apart from poems full of praises that will be written in your honor today, there's some flattering fortune that lies on the other side of your win. Your name will be penned under Jay Kantan from TCS's name in the Udaan Honors Board, and a prize of rupees 50,000 to go with it. And first runner-up prize of rupees 35,000, a bright start to the holiday week that follows. And of course, to our audience who've gathered here watching us live, you can join in the action and be amongst the winners. How? Simply on Twitter, follow at NHRDN. I will be asking an audience question after the end of every round. So, and that question will also be posted at the same time on Twitter as well. So reply with your answer to at NHRDN on the same tweeted question, along with, very importantly, please note, hashtag Udaan 2022. It must include hashtag Udaan 2022. And whoever does that the fastest and does give the right answer, you will get a gift voucher from us. Right. So that's how you participate in the audience questions. Good luck to all of you in the audience. So participants, it's anything but easy, not because the questions are going to be tough. Oh, no, not at all. The questions are going to be easy peasy. The answers, however, but tougher still will be the competitors. Most of you attempting to build a legacy while one of you rebuilds in 4 rounds. 4 rounds is all you get. So take a deep breath, for you may not get a chance after this. Round 1, it's a crossword. There will be 5 questions, all on the buzzer in a crossword, 15 seconds of time per question. And your timer begins after I'm done reading the question and ends 15 seconds after that. 3 of you out of the 8 that are participating will be allowed to hit the buzzer. But as soon as I have a right answer, I do not go to subsequent participants who hit the buzzer. The first person on the buzzer, the first contestant on the buzzer, you're answering for +10 and -5. Second one's answering for +7 and -5. The third one's answering for +4 and -5. So the negative remains constant, and the amount of positives that you get keep on decreasing with every pass that the question goes through on the buzzer. 3 different participants allowed to hit the buzzer. Good luck, everyone. A good start will perhaps or is likely to take you a long way in this quiz. We'll start now with showing you what the crossword looks like. So this is the crossword that needs to be solved. We'll go in order, 1 down, 2 down, then 3 down and 3 across. We'll do both together. I'll come to that later. And then is 4 across and 5 across. Let's start. Question number 1, common to all of you on the buzzer. Here it is. A 2013 founded brand, X, is soon going to be merged with 3 other entities, part of the parent group. When X was founded, its brand identity consisted of an octagram with each of its 8 points, forming the first letter of the name of the brand. And its word mark consists of both uppercase as well as lowercase letters, making the logo type rather rare. Which brand that's heading into its sunset soon? On the buzzer is Preetham.
I'll say this is Vistara, which is being merged with Air India and Air Asia India, the Indian version.
And it has an octogram, has 8 points that form the first letter of the brand, the V. That is correct. That's the answer that I was looking for. That's a good answer there, Preetham. Well done. Gets you a +10 on the very first question. Well, very good. So that's 10 points to Preetham. He begins the national final with a tenner for himself as we place Vistara on the crossword, in the crossword. Now we go to 2 down. Here's 2 down for you. A quick dissection of why a publisher was shut down earlier this year, 5 years after it was bought for 40 crores. In 2018, they paid the highest signing amount for an Indian fiction writer who had been with another publication for 14 long years. Huge promotional expenses, royalty advances more than what they could afford, and the owner's lack of appetite for losses and lack of scale. Which publisher am I speaking of? Shut down earlier this year. 8 letters. On the buzzer is Preetham again. Yes, Preetham.
I'll say this is Westland by Amazon.
Is correct. That's the answer. There is indeed Westland Books. Good answer there. So, having bought them for 40 crores 6 years ago or 5 years ago, 40 crores for Amazon isn't really something that bothers them. They can easily write off those losses. So they didn't really have, there was a lack of appetite for losses and lack of scale, which wasn't quite possible. And Amazon, whenever it does something, generally prefers to do it on scale. So that is what I was looking for. That's well done. It is indeed Westland. It's 2 back-to-back answers coming from one corner of our participating participants. And that's both of them coming from Preetham, 10 points every time. We'll move on to the next one. But before that, we'll place Westland in the crossword. We'll go to 3 now. And as you can see, there's a 3 across and a 3 down. So we'll play both together. Instead of one at a time, we'll play both together. If we're playing both together means that I need both the answers. Don't give me one answer. That doesn't get you points. In fact, that will only get you negatives. So don't attempt it for one answer. And both of them, one clue. Sorry, one clue. Both of them start with the same alphabet, right? So which is why 3 across, 3 down, both start from the same alphabet. Here is my question. I need both parts. Don't attempt for half the answer. Here's my question. Here's number 3. There are 2 major evolutionary systems of combating unassigned seating at a workplace. While some consider them to be interchangeable, but that's not the case. X is where employees reserve an unassigned workspace before they come to work, whereas Y is where a worker chooses a workspace upon arrival. Please give me both. On the buzzer is Francis from HDFC Live. Yes, Francis, you're muted. I need both answers, please.
So the one across is hot desking.
Okay.
And the one down is
Quick, Francis.
Just holocracy, or just
All right, that's a -5. Question goes to the next on the buzzer, and that is to Rajarshi. Yes, Rajarshi.
Yeah, so I'll say the same thing for the one across, which is hot desking, and for Y, I will say I was also thinking of holocracy, so I'll say that's 8, right?
Quick.
I'll also say holocracy. I don't have a different
All
option.
right, so that's a -5. I'm sorry, Rajarshi. I'll move on to the next on the buzzer, and that is to Preetham.
So yeah, X I'll stick with hot desking. Y I'll say is hoteling. You basically
Is correct. That's the answer. This is hoteling and hot desking. That is correct. Fortunately, a couple of you collecting negatives, so that's a -5 to both the West Zone qualifiers, to Francis as well as Rajarshi, but a +4 to Preetham. So that's 4 to Preetham, -5 Rajarshi, and a -5 to Francis. Both of you got hot desking correct. But the other one that you missed out was hoteling, which is essentially where employees have an unassigned workspace before they come to work. Yeah, sorry, reverse, where a worker chooses a workplace upon arrival. All right. So hoteling is a reservation-based unassigned seating, whereas hot desking is a reservation-less unassigned seating. So that's what I was looking for. 4 to Preetham, -5 Rajarshi, -5 Francis. Lots of questions to come, at least 4 more than what we had in the zonal. So you will get an opportunity to get back those points. For now, we'll move on to placing it in the crossword, and we go to 4 across. 5-letter answer. There's a visible. Here's my question. Featuring Prime Minister Winston Churchill cutting off the hands of a mulmul weaver, a poster by which country depicts how the British deindustrialized India? Your answer is the name of a country. That's neither India nor Britain. So pick from the remaining 190-ish options that you have. Right, on the buzzer is Preetham again. Yes, Preetham.
I'll say this is Japan, essentially like propaganda when they were trying to invade India and take it over.
Is correct. That's the answer. So essentially, Japan carpet bombed India with anti-Britain posters during the Second World War, and they had a war theater in northeast part of the country. That is indeed correct. That's a good, solid, strong start by Preetham, giving all the 4 correct answers. That's well done. So that's 10 points this time. You got a 4 last time. This time you get a 10, Preetham, just like you did in the first 2 questions, as we move on to placing Japan in the crossword. 2, 5 across. There's a A, there's a I. Here's my question. The roots of his brand lie in the early days of spice trading in India, when his grandfather and great-granduncle shipped pepper and other spices from Kerala to Delhi, Calcutta, and Karachi, thus earning the Gujarati nickname for Pepperman, which became the family surname. What surname am I looking for? On the buzzer is Cherian.
Yeah, I'll say this is Mariwala.
And the brand being?
Marico.
Is correct. That is indeed the answer. That is well done. That's Harsh Mariwala of Marico. Mane Gujarati Nati Avarti, but I think Mariwala means pepperman in Gujarati. That's the answer that I was looking for. That's well done. Cherian gets you a +10, quick as lightning, quick as flash. That was round 1. Not all have landed themselves on the scoreboard yet. That's obvious, for there weren't enough opportunities. But there will be now to each one of them. This is round 2. And it's called Challengers Deep. There will be one question that I will be asking to each participant. We'll go in order. First one's going to be for Abhishek. The last one's going to be for Cherian. And when I give you a direct question, you'll have 10 seconds to not answer the question, to just think about it, let it ferment in your brain, and allow others to challenge you. Give them 10 seconds to challenge you. If they do, if somebody does challenge you, then it's your decision whether you'd like to accept the challenge and answer yourself, or reject the challenge and let them answer. If you accept the challenge, you're answering for +10 and -5. But if you reject, you let them answer for +10 and -5. If the answer is wrong, the question will come back to you after the challenge, but this time only for 5 points and no negatives. However, if you still don't give me a right answer, it goes to somebody else on the buzzer for +5 and -5. But please note, do not answer in the first 10 seconds, even if you know the answer with absolute certainty. Somebody presses the buzzer, you can accept and then still give the answer. I will give you the chance to decide who answers first, right? So please don't rush into the answer. That's all that there is. Sorry. For this round, we will begin with the first question, and that's going to be for Abhishek from Sale Rourkela. Abhishek, if you are ready.
Yes,
Abhishek.
I'm ready.
All right, Abhishek.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. Abhishek, here's my question for you. Please note, all questions in this round have multiple parts. So if you're attempting, I need all parts of the question, whether you're attempting on the direct, on the challenge, on the buzzer, whatever the case may be. Don't give me part answers. I mean, you can, and you can guess for the other part, But unless you give me a complete answer, I will not give you points. There are no points. Right. For quite a few questions, one more thing. For quite a few questions, this is an image heavy round. So I'll show you a larger image size first. We'll take a look at the image for 5 seconds, and then I'll show you what the question is. Other participants, if you're comfortable by just looking at the image and if you know everything about it, feel free to hit the buzzer. Right. So here's my question to Abhishek. Abhishek, if you can stay unmuted, please. This is your direct.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's your question, Abhishek. Others on the buzzer. Look at the visual. All right, here is my question. When this museum was built in the 90s, it transformed the city from the depths of unemployment and poverty to becoming a destination for tourists and even investors. This is known as the blank effect. The X effect, sorry. The X here is the city, and the museum is Y. That also became a chosen destination for Shivaji the Boss, as you can see in this picture with him being dressed in a very fancy coat. Someday I'll buy it too. But for the moment, you have to tell me, name the city and name the museum. You have a challenge, Abhishek, coming from Preetham. I need you to tell me.
I reject the challenge.
Which means you let Preetham answer?
Yeah.
Okay, Preetham, what's your answer?
This is the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao.
This is the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, the effect being the Bilbao effect. And Preetham's honor roll continues from where he left. He didn't leave at all. He was always around, and he continues on that fine performance, builds on it further into the ascendancy. Is Preetham, that is indeed Bilbao and Guggenheim Museum by Frank Gehry. That's what I was looking for, as opposed to places like Sydney, who have the Opera House. But Sydney has always been a decent enough commercial capital, not really a place with no economy at all, as opposed to Bilbao, which did. So when they built this structure, post that, Bilbao's really flourished, and which is why it's called the Bilbao effect in Spain. That's well done. Good answer there, Preetham. On the challenge, gets you a +10 as we move on to the next question. That is going to be for Sampad. Sampad, if you're ready. Okay, Sampad, here's my question for you. Take a look at the visual. And your question is, when this company was founded by a German immigrant in the West Coast to escape prosecution, it began as a dry goods wholesaler with prisons as its biggest customers. Which company, that's the first part, whose eponymous founder's home in Germany is now a museum that you saw in the picture. The company had its products bearing the racist phrase, the only kind made by white labor, briefly, in response to certain act in the US that disallowed immigration from which country that saw an informal redux over the last couple of years. So two-part question. Which company has the founder's home as a museum in Germany, and they had the racist phrase, the only kind made by white labor, briefly in response to a certain act in the US. So which countries' citizens were excluded? Two parts. Sampad, there is a challenge coming from Abhishek. What do you want to do?
You want which countries? I didn't get the country part.
The second part is that, there was a racist phrase that was included in the manufacturing of their product. And because there was a certain act in the US that existed around that time, which prohibited people from a certain country to come to US. So which country was that? And you saw a form of an informal redux over the last couple of years of the same kind. There was no act in the last couple of years, but it was informally in place. Sampath, take a decision. Abhishek's waiting.
Okay, I'll reject the challenge.
Which means you'll let Abhishek answer.
No, I'll answer.
So that's accepting the challenge. Okay, Sampath, what's your answer? Which company first?
Levi's Trust is the company.
Okay.
And country being Bavaria, Germany.
Germany is already there in the question.
Okay. So Bavaria, maybe the early
All right.
part.
That is incorrect, Sampath. That's a -5. I'll pass the question to Abhishek. +10.
I will say Levi Strauss, and the company and the country is India.
Is incorrect as well. There was no exclusionary act for India. So the last part there in the question was kind of a clue. It says that disallowed immigration from which country that saw an informal redux over the last couple of years. Both of you got the company right. Sorry, both of you got the company right. That is indeed Levi's. And there was an exclusion act in the US in the 1880s called the Chinese Exclusion Act. So as the result of the virus that spread around over the last couple of years, there was an informal redux. I didn't say there was an act, but an informal sense of people not really being very appeasing towards Chinese citizens. So that's what I was looking for. So which is why they had a tag inside the jeans that said made the kind only made by white labor, because even in those days the Chinese were coming over to the US and taking away jobs, the perpetual complaint that has been around since forever. So that's the history of why this exclusion existed. This exclusion went on till mid 20th century, I believe. Only then did they got rid of it. But that's the answer that I was looking for. That's a negative to both Sampath and Abhishek, -5 to both of you. As we move on to the next one, that is to Francis from HDFC Live. Francis? Okay. Francis, are you ready?
Yeah.
Here's your question, Francis. Others on the buzzer. Look at the visual. There's something I've removed in the visual on the left. It says do, and that's it. And there's something on the right also I've removed behind those white boxes. Now, here's my question. Launched in June on IVM Podcast, Danish Seth hosts a podcast called Do ABCD. ABCD is a phrase that also featured D's founder, D is the name of a brand, in one of the episodes. ABCD is a common English idiom that means to do something that one enjoys and is thus a wordplay, as D is the name of the brand. In August, they hosted a metaverse concert called Bverse, then another wordplay there. The concert was held in a dome in a virtual recreation of the most expensive office market in India. That's X. I'm looking for two parts, which is tell me the most expensive office market in India that was recreated, and you can see that in that small little visual right now. And which brand is this that came out with this podcast? You have a challenge coming from Sampath. Take a decision, Francis.
I'll let Sampath answer.
Sampath, go for it. +10, -5.
So it's boat. The boat for the company, and the office space will be corner place, seeing from the flag and all. So they had a phrase, do what's your boat floats or something like that. So I think boat and the corner place.
You've jumbled up the phrase, but the phrase isn't what I was looking for. To do something that one enjoys is called
it was there.
to do whatever floats your boat. That is correct. And that is indeed Connaught Place, as Sampath identifies from the flag, and also around it, you can see a circular organization of that visual from their floatverse. That was the metaverse concert that took place. So it was called floatverse. So do what floats your boat. It's a good answer there, Sampath. Well done on all counts. You got a negative on the last one. You got a -5 on the previous one. This time you get a +10. Very good. So this is, and in one of the episodes, Aman Gupta, who's the founder, he also appears. So essentially, you can make sense of what the podcast is about people who do unusual things. So this is do what floats your boat. Good answer. Sampath gets a +10. Next question to Rajarshi. Rajarshi, if you're ready. Please unmute.
Yes, Ajay.
Here's your question. Others on the buzzer. Look at the visual. There are quite a few things removed on the right, but more or less all are related to the same thing. So you'll see 10 blanks, but it's not like there are 10 different things. It's more or less the same thing. All right, here's my question. Among the various historical artifacts that have been to space are the belongings of two pioneers. The wristwatch of X on the left, that was in the possession of 99s, an organization founded by X, a person. And on the right is a fabric and piece of wood that Neil Armstrong took with him as a tribute to Y. Who are X and Y? Both pioneers, the wristwatch belonging to X, possession of, it was in the possession of 99s after the death of X, an organization founded by X. There is a challenge coming from Preetham. Rajarshi, what do you want to do?
Yeah, so if I let him answer, then we split points. Sorry, Ajay.
No, you don't split points at all. He's challenging you for this. Okay. He gets a tenner if he gets it right.
And I don't get anything. And I don't get anything, right?
You don't get anything.
I'll go for it, Ajay.
Okay, so go for it. +10, -5, Rajarshi.
I will say X is the Omega Sea Master, which was worn by Neil Armstrong, and Y would be Roald Amundsen, the first man to go to the South Pole.
All right. -5, Rajarshi. Question goes to Preetham. +10, -5.
I'll say X is Amelia Earhart and Y is the Wright brothers, like the first.
Is correct. That's the answer. That's Amelia Earhart. As one of the pioneers. 99s is an organization of women pilots across the world. So that's Amelia Earhart as the pioneer. And on the right was the first manned lunar landing where Neil Armstrong carried a piece of fabric and a piece of wood from the original flight of Wright brothers from Kitty Hawk. That is what I was looking for. That's well done, Preetham. Gets you a +10 again and a -5 to Rajarshi for being wrong on both counts. You were way off this one. We'll move on to the next one, and that's going to be for Rohan. Rohan, if you can unmute.
Yeah.
Here's my question for you, Rohan. Others on the buzzer. There's no visual on this one. A 13th century dynasty named after the word for origin lends its name to the country's current currency. The founding king initially introduced banknotes backed by what commodity X that Roman author Pliny the Elder had earlier called an unproductive luxury, causing trade imbalance for Europe. The X-backed currency failed, so he introduced something else, Y-backed notes. Like the fall of the Indian rupee, being Y-backed was nightmarish, as they eventually abandoned the Y standard and were the last country to do so. Please tell me the two commodities that were backing the currency, the first one being X, the next one being Y, whose first 3 letters are same. Their first 3 letters are same, so you can perhaps work out from there. There is a challenge coming from Abhishek, Rohan. Okay, Rohan, take a decision.
I'll let him answer.
You let him answer. Abhishek, what's your answer?
Silver, silk and silver.
And what's the currency?
Currency.
And who's the king?
No clue.
Which is the dynasty?
I don't know.
What part got this one for you? What was the clue for you in this one?
Pliny the Elder.
What did Pliny the Elder say?
Pliny the Elder, I knew that the silk trade usually used to create imbalances for the world because a lot of silver used to flow into the India because silk used to be one of the India used to be one of the primary source of silk.
Okay. Slight bit of error there, but I think you've got this from silk and then you worked out the silver. That is correct. The country being China, the currency being yuan, the king being Kublai Khan, who originally created, if you've seen the Netflix series Marco Polo, Marco Polo comes in, tries to steal the silkworm and all that. So he first created a silk-backed currency, which didn't work. So then he started the silver-backed currency, and China continued to be on the silver standard, suffered terribly, just like India did in the late 19th century. China, however, had a silver standard as late as mid-20th century. And till, when the West was already on gold standard, there was no chance silver would survive. Right, so that's the answer. That's well done, Abhishek. So I gave you a very important clue. First three letters are same, silk and silver, although unrelated to each other. But that is correct. Very well done. Abhishek gets you a +10. We'll move on to the next one, to Anand. Anand, if you're ready.
Yes.
Here's my question for you. Look at the two visuals. Two groups of men. And there is some connection between them, which we'll talk about. Here's my question. Included as an intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO, the culture propagated by certain establishments of X, the city, in Y, the country. So I need both X and Y. That's one part, because it's the country and their capital city. Certain establishments of the city in a certain country include various intellectual institutions, like the X circle on the left, that championed the intersection of philosophy and science, and the Y school on the right, that focused on human action. Please give me both the country and the capital, and what establishments from the city that offer time and space that spawned such ideas. You have a challenge coming from Preetham. It's a three-part question.
I shall let Preetham answer.
All right, Preetham, go for it.
I'll say this is coffee houses in Vienna, Austria.
And so the X circle is?
Yeah, so X is Vienna, Y is Austria, and establishments are coffee houses.
All right, you know of anybody from those philosophy or those schools?
Essentially Freud and all of them were around, then they were working out of Vienna at some point.
And anybody from the Austrian school?
Wittgenstein, Freud, Jung, they were all, even Einstein, I think, was at some point in Vienna.
Whatever that I was looking for, you are absolutely perfect on all counts. That is indeed correct. That is the answer. These are the coffee houses of Vienna. And of course, the philosophy group being Vienna Circle and the Austrian school, both eventually leading up to some Nobel Prize winners. Moritz Schlegel, Bertrand Russell, Ludwig Wittgenstein from the Vienna Circle, and of course from the Austrian school, Rothbard, Bastiat, all those people that were there from the Austrian School of Economics. That is absolutely perfect there. Preetham gets you a +10. That's very good. 2 questions remain. We will move on for the next one to now Preetham. Preetham, the next one's your direct. If you can please unmute.
Yeah.
Here's my question for you, Preetham. Look at the visuals. The visual on the right is a screenshot from my own device, but I've identified something in red. All right, so here's my question. In the domain of graphical user interface, the vertical and horizontal navigation patterns that you see here have their names inspired from the world of music and literature respectively, and interestingly, both German, both music and literature. What musical instrument lends its name to the drop-down menu on the left, and what everyday edible item from a Brothers Grimm story lends its name to the horizontal navigation that you see on the right? So what musical instrument lends its name to the drop-down menu, and what everyday edible item from a Brothers Grimm story lends its name to the horizontal navigation? There's nobody presenting a challenge, Preetham.
Yeah, so Y is breadcrumbs, right? And X is accordion, so it expands as you this thing, and breadcrumbs from the Hansel and Gretel story where they drop breadcrumbs in.
Is correct. Absolutely. That's the answer. This is indeed accordion and breadcrumbs coming from Hansel and Gretel. That was breadcrumbs, and that is, of course, accordion. From just picked a random picture. I typed accordion and I found this, and I was like, okay, fine, we'll keep this. So this is from a Bollywood film. That is correct. So that's accordion and breadcrumbs. That's a fine answer there. Preetham said this time and again in this quiz, and I'm saying that again. That's a +10. That's very good. We'll move on to our final question, number 8. That's for Cherian. Cherian, if you're ready.
Yeah.
Here's your question. Here's a visual. And your question. It is this company that has propagated the myth that a famous scientist has fixed a certain standard for a certain product. There are 3 facts that dispel this myth. First, this scientist or the researcher studied higher concentrations of alcohol, 70 degrees and above. Second, the standard was established in 1843 when he was only 9 years old. And 3, he preferred red wine for he did not want to be an alcoholic. We, however, know him for setting another standard. Who is this scientist and what standard that is falsely attributed to him? And I've dispelled that myth. There is a challenge coming from Francis. Cherian? Take a decision.
I'll let Francis answer.
All right, Francis.
So I'll say that this is Gosset from the Guinness Brewery. And he's also known for, the students' tea curve and the tea distribution and such. That's the standard he set. And this is basically setting the standard for the alcohol content of beers like these and stuff.
Right. That's a -5 to Francis. I'll give the question back to Cherian. +5 if correct, no negatives. Otherwise, Cherian, do you have a attempt? No negative. Right, Cherian, time's up. Nothing's coming from you? No?
No, no.
No. So I'll go to the next one on the buzzer, and that is Rohan.
I'll say this is Mendeleev, and he came up with this proof of alcohol, which is a degree of the strength of alcohol.
And so, what standard that is falsely attributed to him?
I mean, like the proof of vodka, or the like something is like 40 proof or something, right? I mean, that sets the amount of alcohol that is like contained, right? So that is attributed to Mendeleev.
And we, however, know him for setting another standard.
That's the periodic table, right?
Is correct, Rohan. That is indeed the answer. This is Dmitry Mendeleev. That's the company in question. The logo that you saw was a company called Russian Standard. They actually propagated this myth, saying that Mendeleev said that vodka is 40% and alcohol and 60% water, but that's not really the case. He's not responsible for that standard. That's a good answer there, Rohan. Gets you a +5, but a -5 to Francis with no real points to show for. He was trying to buzz his way out of trouble. Unfortunately, though, he's landed in the hands of trouble. So that's a -5 to Francis, a +5 to Rohan, and half-time in this quiz, but about 15-20 minutes into kickoff elsewhere. I'm told that there is a much talked about global competition that's going on alongside, which features a defending champion team on one side and a GOAT on the other. Just like there is no underdog there is no underdog here. So we'll keep the animal spirits high and the amount of my bad puns low. The battle to mark territorial supremacy will continue. But before that, a question for the audience. Right, audience, you know the drill. We had fairly exhausting set of questions, but I hope you remember how audience questions need to be responded to. Here's my question for you. While not primarily used in food, this product is actually completely safe to consume, to the point where it has an FSSAI badge and a green vegetarian logo on the pack. While applying for classification under excise duty, the company opted to list as a food item rather than a beauty product, thus saving tax. Which product? Which provides nourishment even if you don't eat it? That's my question to the audience. Head over to Twitter on the very same question. Please respond with your answer. And don't forget to put #Udaan2022. After you do that, I'll request you to come back and then we'll continue with the remaining part of it. Right, welcome back to taking a look at the scores halfway into the quiz. And this is what the scoreboard looks like. As you can see, there is Preetham's thrown everything and the kitchen sink at this quiz. And there is a huge gap at this point halfway between him and the others. He's currently leading with a fair margin. A margin that I haven't really honestly seen in quite some time. He's on 74, and the next on the list is Cherian with a score of 10. Then are Sampad and Abhishek and Rohan, all three of them at 5 apiece. Anand hasn't really opened his account, and Francis and Rajarshi, both of you are at -10 each. So that's what the scorecard looks like after the end of 2 rounds. Clearly, Preetham being in the ascendancy there, but the national final will march on. And will the leader continue to conjure, or will the chasers chart a barely believable path for them from here on to ascend to the top? We shall see. What we shall see. Until now, they've been walking a lonely road. In the next round, however, each one of them has company, and it's called paired impaired. In this round, I'll pair you up on the basis of your scores. So I'll tell you what the pairs look like. I'll tell you how this round works. First, everybody gets a direct question. You'll be paired with someone, the nearest to you on the scoreboard. The direct participant gets a question. If they answer as a paired participant, you can accept or reject. If you accept a correct answer, the direct participant gets 10, you get a 5. If you accept a wrong answer, both of you get a -5. Question goes to somebody else on the buzzer. For a +5, -5, 2 buzzers will be allowed. However, if the answer that the direct participant gave correct and you reject it, they still get a 10, you get a -5. And if they gave a wrong answer and you reject it, you can correct it for +10. However, if your correction is also incorrect, you still get a -5, right? So keep that in mind. However, very importantly, only the direct and the paired participant have a choice of passing the question. The participants on the buzzer do not. If you want to pass the question, do not hit the buzzer. Don't do that. But as a direct and the paired participant, you can choose to pass the question. Pass. There's no negative at all, but there's no points to gain either, irrespective of whether the answer is correct, whether the answer that you, as a paired participant, you're passing is correct or incorrect. You don't get any points, and you don't lose anything either. Right. So the first pair is going to be Preetham and Cherian. So you'll be the first pair. The second pair is going to be Abhishek and Sampad. The next pair, the third pair, is going to be Rohan and Anand. Right. Very interestingly, it is the pairs are on the basis of, I mean, ideally I had planned on the basis of scores, but clearly they've turned out to be on the basis of the zones that you've qualified from. Did you have a breakout room separately before this that let's pair with each other? Let's promote our respective zones. Right, that's very interesting. Okay, so we'll continue. We'll start. The first question is going to be for Preetham and Cherian. Cherian, listen to Preetham's answer if he gives, and then decide accordingly to accept, reject, or pass. Cherian, if you can please unmute. And Preetham, if you can keep the buzzer aside. All right. Others on the buzzer, 2 of you will be allowed amongst the remaining ones to hit the buzzer and answer. Here's my question to Preetham and then to Cherian and then perhaps to somebody else on the buzzer. Last year, India was behind only Thailand and Japan as the biggest buyer of something. The World Economic Forum cites surging inflation as the reason for this behavior, as the demand for it was up by approximately 30% year-over-year globally. India's demand spree, World Economic Forum says, could be an attempt at diversification. What am I speaking of? Preetham, you can give the answer whenever. You don't have to wait for anything.
I'll say this is the US dollar.
All right. You will answer and you will say US dollar. Question goes to Cherian. Accept, reject, pass.
I'll Accept.
You'll accept. I'm afraid that is incorrect. That's a -5 Preetham, -5 Cherian. Question goes to Abhishek. +5, -5. Abhishek, quick.
I will say Russian oil.
Is incorrect as well. That's not the answer. Not the US dollar, not the Russian oil. -5 to all three of you, Preetham, Cherian, and Abhishek. I thought this was one of the easier ones of the lot. The answer that I was looking for is gold. India being the third biggest buyer of gold following Thailand and Japan. This is gold is what I was looking for. That's a -5 to three of you. But now I go to the next question, and that's going to be for Cherian. Cherian, here's my question for you. Preetham, you're paired with him. Cherian, your question is, this American engineer created a certain kind of Twitter bot. When Elon was acquiring Twitter, he said he would allow such bots to continue to exist because free speech. But last week, Twitter shut all his accounts citing personal safety risks. What kind of bots does he run?
So this is, I think, Jack Sweeney, and he runs this Twitter handle called Elon Jet. He tracks flights of Elon as well as Russian oligarchs and celebrities. So these are automated handles.
What answer are you leaving Preetham to accept, reject, or pass?
These are flight tracking bots.
All right. So Preetham, he says flight tracking bots, accept, reject, pass.
Accept.
That is correct. He is indeed Jack Sweeney. That is the answer that I was looking for. It's a good answer there, Cherian. Tracking private jet of rich individuals like Elon and Donald Trump. I showed some pictures in the question, and of course Putin as well. So that is the answer that I was looking for. Well done. After that negative to both Cherian and Preetham, now you get a positive. Cherian gets 10, and Preetham, you get a +5. Next pair, we go to East Zone now, and we go to Abhishek and Sampad. Abhishek and Sampad, if you can both unmute. Here's my question for you, Abhishek. Sampad, listen to his answer and decide accordingly. Set up around the year 2000, what location makes them the loneliest ATMs in the world? Abhishek. You don't have to answer.
Okay.
Are you answering?
Pass.
Passing. All right. Sampad, you can give me an answer or choose to not answer. +10, -5.
Yeah, I'll answer. These are located in the poles, Antarctica poles. So these are the loneliest. Those who travel to the poles, they can only transact there. Antarctica
is correct. There is a North Pole also, but these aren't in North Pole. So if you say poles in plural, then you mean both, right? But it's not in Antarctica. It's in not in the Arctic region. It's in the Antarctic region. That is the answer. That's well done, Sampath. And interestingly enough, only one of them operates at a time, and the reason is to cannibalize the other. So essentially, if the one that's not, I mean, both are functional, but only one works. That's because if the one that's working doesn't work, they can take out those equipments from the other one, because shipping products from wherever else to Antarctica would take a lot of time. So that's the answer. That's well done. Sampath gets you a +10 and nothing to Abhishek. We'll move on to Sampath now. Sampath, next one's your direct. Abhishek, you're paired with him. Here's my question for you, Sampath. This 1991 book is responsible for the popularization of two terms, Generation X and a term. So that's what you have to tell me. This Generation X is the Gen X. X is not a variable here, right? In their 1997 edition, the Oxford English Dictionary was going to include the word, but decided against it, fearing lawsuits. But they went ahead and included it in their 2001 edition anyway. In 2006, the company that inspired the term used it in a campaign, not bad for whatever the term is, attempting to outtake the definition. Please tell me, what term am I speaking of? So one word answer. Sampad, are you attempting?
Company, you are looking for a company, one word.
I'm looking for a term. The company that inspired the term. One word. Are you attempting, Sampad? Take a decision.
So I can pass, and if Abhishek says something, I can agree to him or nothing like that.
No, it doesn't come back to you.
Okay. So I want to, okay, -5. Okay, the term will be millennial.
All right. It goes to Abhishek. He says millennial. Accept, reject, pass.
I accept it.
You accept it. I'm afraid that is incorrect. That's a -5 to the Rourkela participants, both of you, -5 each. I'll move the question to Francis.
So I'll say the company is Boomer and Baby Boomer, not bad for Baby.
That is also incorrect, Francis. That's a -5. Question goes to Rohan.
McJob from McDonald's.
Is correct. That's the answer. This is Mac Job is what I was looking for. Like I said, a company that inspired the term. So McDonald's wanted to co-opt the term because there is a negative connotation attached to it. Low paid workers, high stress job and all of that. So they said, even when you work with McDonald's, there's a lot that you can do with your life. So they gave certain examples, had a poster campaign. Whether it's successful or not, you can decide for yourself. But that's what I was looking for. That's a good answer there. Rohan gets you a +5. Francis, that's a -5. Sampad, that's a -5. And Abhishek, that's a -5 to you. So from the east zone and from the west zone to the east zone, we now go to the north zone. We go to Rohan and then we go to Anand. Rohan and Anand?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Here's my question for Rohan first and then to Anand. Rohan, your question is, in a stark contrast, the least livable city as per the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Index 2022 and the most livable city as per the Indian central government's Ease of Living Index 2020 are the same. Which city that did really well in the EOLI index, predominantly because one of the parameters was economic ability?
Central government as in the Indian central government?
Indian central government, yeah. So it's an Indian city. So they were best in India's living index and worst in the Economist livability index. Rohan, are you trying?
Mumbai.
You're answering and you're saying Mumbai. I'll pass the question to Anand. Accept, reject, pass.
I shall accept.
I'm afraid that is not the answer. That's a -5. Question goes to Abhishek.
Delhi.
Is also not correct. That's a -5 to you as well. So the North Zone participants picking a city from the west, the East Zone participant picking a city from the north. Well, the hatred's passing on to the others. But the answer to this one that I was looking for is Francis, that's too late. However, for the sake of humor, we'll see what does the West Zone participant has. There's no negative and no positive to you, Francis. I just want to know what you have to say.
Okay, I would say Bengaluru.
Is correct. Oh. That's the answer. Looking for this is Rajarshi. Did you also want to say Bangalore?
Yes, Ajay. That was my guess as well.
All right. So everybody's picking somebody else's city. The love for their own motherland remains. So that's no points there to Francis. But a -5 to Rohan, a -5 to Anand, and a -5 to Abhishek. So Bengaluru ranked because economic ability was a parameter in the rankings for the Ease of Living Index by the central government. Bangalore, no surprises, ranked quite high. There wasn't, and so because the weightage was quite high, about 15%, I think. But that wasn't really a parameter for the Economist. So, which is why Bangalore didn't really do too well, because crumbling infrastructure and amongst other things, we let it be. So that's a -5 to 3 of you. We'll move on to the next question. That's to Anand. Anand, You're direct. Rohan, you're paired with him. Here's my question. This word has undergone complete reversal in its original meaning. It has its roots going back to Aristotle when it meant serving as means or an instrument. This usage morphed into the general meaning of anything that's alive. It was later applied in business as an alternative to the industrial age metaphor that companies should be machine-like. What term, whose confounding definition means some prefer to use the word free range instead? One word I'm looking for as a kind of confusing definition. Anand?
I shall pass.
You're passing. Rohan, do you want to try +10 -5?
Pass.
Passing. Goes to Abhishek.
Automation?
Is not correct. Abhishek, that's a -5. That's not the answer. There's no negative to anybody else because both Anand and Rohan passed this. So a term whose confounding definition means some prefer to use the term free range or also cage free. The term that I'm looking for, something that's really gained currency in the last 2 years, organic. The term is organic is what I was looking for. The reversal means, you know, interestingly, the fact that organic means comes from something alive. It also means that plastics are organic. But would someone really consider plastics to be organic? Because they're, you know, usually made out of petroleum, and petroleum comes from once living organisms. And I don't think most people think of plastic as remotely organic. So which is why it is kind of a confounding term. That's why I thought that, you know, maybe I'll give the term free range. Some people use the term free range. Some people use the term cage free. All of that essentially refers to the same thing. But we'll move on to our next zone or next pair. And that is going to be Francis and Rajarshi. Right. Francis, here's my question for you. Rajarshi, decide accordingly. In April 2022, earlier this year, the European Union priced something at $87 per metric ton. The EU established this market 17 years ago, thus becoming the first in the world and is now the largest such market in the world, accounting for roughly 90% of the global market. What is it? What is X that I'm speaking of, whose market may also come up in India now, following a bill passed in Rajya Sabha last week? Francis, I need an answer or not?
I'll pass this.
You'll pass. Rajarshi, are you attempting +10 -5?
No, I will pass as well.
You'll pass it to Anand.
My guess will be millet.
Your guess will be?
Millet. Millet as in grains.
Okay, the millet grains. No, that is incorrect. Anand, I'm afraid that's a -5. Question goes to Cherian.
I'll take a guess. This is, I'm guessing this is carbon credit.
Carbon credit. And what's the bill that passed in Rajya Sabha last week?
No clue. I'm just guessing.
All right, you're guessing. The last question, I deliberately withheld a part of a trivia that I wanted to share. It was about the term organic. In chemistry, when you use the term organic, you generally speak of carbon content. And this is indeed a carbon market. That's the answer that I was looking for. Or emission trading schemes. So EU basically dominates the emission trading scheme market or carbon markets. Essentially, carbon markets are a market-based tool which are an initiative attempting to limit greenhouse gases. And there was a rumor that India was attempting to prevent companies from trying to export carbon to other countries. But that was clarified by the union minister later. And just last week, when we were busy conducting the North Zone zonal final, they passed, in the Rajya Sabha, they passed the Energy Conservation Bill 2022, which also allows or permits for a carbon market to come up in India. That is indeed the right answer, Cherian. Good answer. Gets you a +5. That's well done. And and a -5 to Anand, and that's about it. Rajarshi, final question of this round. This is going to be for you, and Francis, you're paired with him. Here's my question for you, Rajarshi. Our ability to shift focus from foreground to the background is known as figure ground reversal. In the context of technological innovation, FGR occurred when the launch of the Sputnik made the envious US military to use two separated points on the Earth to track Sputnik's speed and position using Doppler effect. A year later, it became obvious to them that there is a future of this technology, but in a reverse manner, in an opposite purpose. So, what big technological breakthrough did they achieve using principles of FGR? Something that still exists, very popular, likely that even you use it. Right, anyway, are you attempting?
Yeah, I'll attempt it.
Give me an answer now, please.
I'll say this is a GPS, Global Positioning System.
Okay, I'll pass the question to Francis. Accept, reject, pass.
I'll accept.
All right. Why are you accepting, Francis?
Seems likely, as in sounds like GPS, and I know that GPS was started from more from the military kind of a thing. So it became.
What organization did the US military start immediately after Sputnik?
No idea.
Something that is credited with coming up with a lot of technological innovations. That's DARPA, Advanced Research Projects Agency by the US Department of Defense. But this is, the question says, so they were using two separate points on Earth to track the satellite. But then they realized we can flip it, and that has a better use case. So now you have multiple satellites tracking speed and position on planet Earth, and that is something that we call as GPS. That is correct. Yeah. That's the answer there, Rajarshi. That's well done. Good answer. Gets you a +10, and Francis, that gets you a +5, something, a 5 that you were really looking for quite some time. Right, that brings us to the end of round 3. They're stretching every sinew. They're developing a range of non-lethal weapons that could be used in hostage situations. Such was the effect that in trials, the subject were blinded for hours and left with breathing problems. What is the indigenous ingredient used in these weapons? An indigenous ingredient, something they found from somewhere in India. What is that ingredient used by DRDO? So a question around defense immediately following a question that I asked the participants from something that the US defense created. But this is from India. This is from India's DRDO. Attempt this answer on Twitter and come back, and then we'll continue with the final round. Right, welcome back to taking a look at the scoreboard after the end of 3 rounds, after the penultimate round, heading into the final round. This is what the scoreboard looks like. Each of those numbers on the scoreboard screaming with stories worth more than 1,000 words each, stories of how they arrived here and what they need to do to realize the full potential of their wingspan at Udaan. At this point, it's Preetham who's still leading, holding on to his lead with a score of 74. Others making some progress here, there, but not enough to trouble Preetham at this point. But a lot can happen in the last round. It's Preetham who's leading at 74. Cherian who's second at 20. Then is Sampad at 10. Rohan's at 5. Then we have Francis at -10, Anand at -10, Rajarshi with that 10-pointer towards the very end goes back to how he started this quiz at a 0. And Abhishek, you are on -15 as you accumulated 4 negatives in this round. But we'll move on to our next round where till now they've punched and punched in this highest category of business quizzing in India. They belong here. We know that for sure. And now they'll deliver the knockout blow. Final round now. This round is called Triple Trouble. I will be asking 5 questions all on the buzzer. There's 100 points to be won. How? Because every time I ask a question, you hit the buzzer and you tell me that you'd like to step up. If you get it correct, you'll get a +20. If you get it wrong, you get a -10. So please keep that in mind before you decide to step up. However, you also have the option of stepping down, +5 if correct, only a -2 if incorrect. But if you don't say anything, it's a +10 and a -5. There's 15 seconds of time after I'm done reading the question. However, you can hit the buzzer the moment question appears on screen. And when I identify your name, please unmute and quickly give me the answer. But don't ask me to complete the question, because if you hit the buzzer, you're indicating to me that you know the answer already, and there's no need for me to continue reading the question anymore. Remember, step up or step down before you give the answer, not after you give the answer. 3 buzzers allowed, and all 3 of you who run the buzzer, if the question survives till it comes to you, you have those stepping up and stepping down options available to you. So we'll continue and begin with our first question in the final round. Please note, after the end of 4 questions, we will take a look at I'll tell you what the scores are. We won't take a look at the scoreboard, but I'll quickly tell you what the scores are. And if there is any participant who's not really challenging the top 2 spots, then I'll ask you to, hold on to the buzzers on the last question. But for now, 4 questions are coming for you. You can hit the buzzer on all 4. Try to collect as many points, slap up as many points as you can. In this round, you won't see a complete text of the question. You'll only see the operative part. If just by looking at the operative part and the image that accompanies it, you know the answer, hit the buzzer. And then when I identify you, you unmute and tell me what the answer is. Here's my question, the first of 5, common to everyone on your screen now. One of the big 3 of its industry, the company gets its name from a Horatio Nelson flagship and not the World War II ship on the right that you see. On the buzzer is Cherian.
I'll say this is, I'll step down.
You'll step down. And you'll say?
And I'll say this is Vanguard.
All right. Why would you say Vanguard? Victory is a very generic term.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, so
it's
why do you think it's wrong?
It's a guess.
It's a guess. So what industry or domain does Vanguard belong to?
They're into ETFs.
All right. I'll complete my question. When its name was coined, executives in the company protested, but were convinced only when they were told that the nomenclature will aid in listing the entity just before its parent entity, Wellington. Which company is this? Founded by John Bogle. This is indeed Vanguard. That is indeed correct. That's well done. The fact that you decided to step down for some reason, Cherian, that's a +5 for you, but that's a +5 still. That's very good. 5 points there to Cherian. We'll move on to our next question. Here's number 2. The first Xerox model called Xerox 914. The next one that came out was called Xerox 813. However, later on the buzzer is Rohan from Barclays.
I'll step up.
You'll step up.
Yeah, these were the original paper sizes for the Xeroxing, the 9 inches into 14 inches and 8 inches into 13 inches, I think.
All right, you step up and you're saying that they were the paper sizes. I'll complete my question. The next one that came out was called Xerox 813. However, later on, they started naming their products as 2400, etc., when they forayed into copying as opposed to duplicating. The number indicated the number of copies the machine could print in an hour. But what was the reasoning for their first two models? The very successful Xerox 914 and the one that you could keep on your desk, a desktop Xerox called Xerox 813. Rohan steps up and Rohan says it is the size of the paper that they could print. That is indeed correct. That's the answer that I was looking for. 9 by 14 and 8 by 13. That's how you get the names Xerox 914, Xerox 813. And then they moved on to having model numbers on the basis of the number of prints that they could come up with after they came up with the innovation of copying as opposed to duplicating. So that's a plus 20 to Rohan. That's a good answer. 20 points there, Rohan. And now perhaps Cherian's wondering whether he should have stepped up on the previous one. But there are still 3 more questions to do. All right, here's number. Okay, on the next one, you can give me either answer. All right, so either answer is okay, either the specific name of what I'm speaking of or what domain is it in. That's also okay. I'll explain a little. So either answers is okay. You don't have to give me both. Here's my question number 3. You can either name the series or name the subject of this documentary series. A 4-season series currently under production for its 5th one. On the buzzer, is Rohan already?
I'll step up.
You will step up again.
I'll say it's about Formula One. This is the logo of Liberty Holdings, which owns Formula One Holdings and Fun. So it's about Formula One.
And do you have the name of some documentary series that I'm speaking of?
No.
All right, I made it really easy for Rohan there. A 4-season series currently under production for its 5th season was produced by this production house on the left called Box to Box and was commissioned by the company on the right, that's Liberty Media. What documentary series that has nearly doubled the popularity online of its subject? The subject, as Rohan correctly identified after having stepped up, is Formula One, and the series on Netflix that has led to a rekindling of love for Formula One amongst a lot of people. None so much as the Americans, who even with not a great team in Formula One have really thronged to the paddocks every time there is a Formula One organized in the US. So this is Drive to Survive. And of course, the subject being Formula One. And interestingly, now the same production house which created Drive to Survive is coming up with a tennis-based show. So they work wonders for Formula One. Let's see how it does for tennis. But that's a wonderful 20-pointer, very valuable 20-pointer to Rohan, who's given himself a very, very strong chance with 2 questions coming. 2 questions remain. Here's number 4. It's a connect question. You'll see some visuals. You have to tell me what is the common connect to them. Here's number 4. I will, however, describe individual elements too, but feel free to hit the buzzer whenever. Here's number 4, the penultimate question of this year's quiz. What specific purpose automobile connects? The world's largest manufacturer of such automobiles on the left. The first such automobile used the chassis of this car as the second visual. On the buzzer is Anand from Sale Bokaro.
I shall step up.
You will step up and you will say.
That is like a school buses, I think. The buses used for schools.
Why would you say that?
Because that is the person who actually decided that yellow color will be used for that school buses. That is the only 2 parts.
And okay, what about the others?
No,
okay, so you got the part that this is the person who said the color yellow should be used. And so you see a color yellow, which are the 2 connections that you made in your head. What about the car that you see second from left? Do you know what car that is?
Actually, I remember that person. That's the only thing I went with.
No, but do you know what car that is? Anand, let me tell you, I know that you know what car that is. It's the most obvious.
That car. Ford Model T.
Yeah, That is indeed the Ford Model T. And I understand that the left one is kind of tricky, but I'll tell you, the world's largest manufacturer of such automobiles, that's Bluebird that you see on the left. Their first such automobile used the chassis of this car. That's the Ford Model T. I know, Anand, you knew it. And the color used by such vehicles since the 1930s conference set a standard that's called the school bus yellow, and a professor known as the father of school buses, I was going to say in the question of such automobiles, but now because I have the answer, was school buses, is Dr. Frank Sir. And the fact that Anand, you decided to step up means you get a +20. And that's the one that you see in the visual. That's the one on a modified Ford Model T that I wanted to show you. It's actually present in the Henry Ford Museum now. So that's where it's from. So that's a +20 there to Anand. And at this point, we'll take a look at the scores heading into the final question and see if there's somebody who I'll have to ask to hold on and be a little patient on the following question, the final one that comes up. So we'll just tell you where we stand on the scoreboard. But amidst all the awe-inspiring answers that I've received from our participants today in the zonal finals, in the prelims, from where you began this journey, and even today, perhaps like you, I had some late nights too, fueled by coffee as I set these questions. Thank you for being as graceful in the manner in which you conducted yourself. Thank you for giving us a fierce yet healthy competition. And thank you for those late nights, for I could actually witness those late FIFA World Cup games, which I wouldn't have watched otherwise. I know they would have a game going on right now. So we'll just quickly take a final couple of minutes at the 12th Udaan Business Leadership Quiz, and I'll tell you where we stand on the scoreboard. And if there's somebody who I'll have to ask to not be a part of the final question. Actually, I will allow everybody to be a part on the final question, just to sort of signal to others that watch out for us, watch out for me for next year. But if, however, those of you who are competing for the top 2 spots, mathematically, I will give priority to you if you hit the buzzer within the 15 seconds, the time that is allocated. Just give me a moment. Right. So the cutoff for second place is 45 right now, and which means Abhishek, you're on -15. Thank you for playing. Unfortunately, collected way too many negatives that you would have been comfortable with. Sampad, been a champion multiple times before. Unfortunately, your attempt at being a champion in the online edition continues for another year. You're on 10, which means that it's unlikely for you to be able to chase down 45. Francis, thank you for playing. Another year where your hunt goes on to the next year. And Rajarshi, I did say that watch out for Rajarshi towards the very end, but a little too much to be done, and that's not quite mathematically possible. You're on 0. Then Anand, even with that answer, you still end up with a 10, and so you can't go any further. And well, that's about it. Right. So essentially, it's a 3-way fight, and you know, the only way Rohan can overtake Preetham is if Preetham hits the buzzer, takes a step up, and Preetham's raised his hand already. He's put his phone away. He's thrown his phone away. Right. So the only way that can happen is if Preetham hits the buzzer, takes a step up, gets it wrong, and then if Rohan hits the buzzer after and he takes a step up and he gets it right. So lots of permutations there. But the fact that Preetham's raised his hand already means that Preetham wouldn't allow that to happen. All right. So then that means essentially we're playing with Rohan and Cherian. There's a 20-point gap between the two of you. Cherian had it in a step up, you know, different story. But nevertheless, So essentially a 20-point gap between Cherian and Rohan, and we're fighting for second place. Cherian, you hit the buzzer, you take a step up, get it right. There's a tie, I'll do a tiebreaker. If that doesn't happen, anything else happens, Rohan's second. I hope that's clear. For the others, you can hit the buzzer. All the remaining, all 8 of you can hit the buzzer, but I will give priority to Cherian and Rohan, not in that order, as in whoever amongst the 2 of them hits the buzzer. If Rohan hits the buzzer, he has every right to protect his lead. But if Cherian hits the buzzer, I'll allow him to give the answer to the next question, and then we'll see what happens if we need to do a tiebreaker or not. I hope that's clear for everyone. Final question coming up. All right, everybody can hit the buzzer, but I will give priority to Cherian and Rohan. But if they're not interested on the buzzer, then I will let others attempt, and you have all those step up, step downs, all those possible. So here's my question to here's my question to everyone. Let me keep it for everyone. Here's my question to everyone, priority to Cherian and Rohan. Here's my question, the final one. Continuing in the spirit of competitions, on which website, heavily promoted by the Indian central government this year, will you find these competitions? These are some of the competitions that you will find. On which website, heavily promoted by the Indian central government? On the buzzer is Cherian. There are others before him, but they'll wait. I'll let Cherian answer first.
I have no further other choice but to raise the stakes. So step up, and
right,
I'll say this is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, AKAM.
All right, your answer is this is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. My question was, in which website, continuing in the spirit of competitions heavily promoted by the central government this year, will you find these competitions? You said you had no choice but to opt for step up. The answer that I was looking for is indeed Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. That's well done, Cherian. That's a +20. That's very good. However, the competition doesn't end. We have to do a tiebreaker. That's a +20 for Cherian. There's a tiebreaker. Now, for this one, I will have to ask the others to not be a part of the buzzer. So others, please don't hit the buzzer. It's a competition for second place. That's between Rohan and Cherian. Here's my question. It will not appear.
You're only going to read out the question, right?
Yeah, it will not appear on screen. It will not appear on screen. I will read out the question. If you think you know the answer, you hit the buzzer and you tell me what the answer is. I will give you a +1 if correct, a -1 if incorrect. You don't have to step up or step down on this. Clear, Cherian? Clear, Rohan? Give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. So +1, -1, sudden death. I'm told that there's a penalty in the FIFA World Cup final. I don't know if it goes into the penalties. That's for later, but we'll see. I think we have time for that. But right now we'll do a sudden death here. +1, -1. Whoever amongst Cherian and Rohan hits the buzzer and gets it right gets a +1. Now, my question. It's a brand that I'm looking for. Your answer has to be the name of a brand. All right. Your question is, launched in 1986, Viking was Sweden's first satellite in space. But 20 years later, astronaut Michael Collins was taking pictures during a tethered spacewalk outside his Gemini 10. Rohan's on the buzzer.
Hasselblad camera. That's often colloquially called Sweden's first satellite. So Hasselblad.
All right. I'll continue with my question. So Michael Collins was taking pictures during a tethered spacewalk outside his Gemini 10 spacecraft when he dropped the Swedish-made camera he was holding, leading to that camera being jocularly referred to as the first Swedish satellite in space. Which camera is this? It is indeed Hasselblad. That is correct. That's well done, Rohan. That's a +1. And that decides the overall standings in this quiz. That's very well done to all our 8 competitors. Fine performance. But before that, we move on to an audience question that I'd like to ask. In fact, I thought that we'll come to the end of this quiz with that Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav question, but we had a tiebreaker. The only tiebreaker that we had to do across all the prelims as well as the zonals came in the national final. That's how close the competition was. But for the moment, I'll ask a question to the audience. Audience, your final question for this year's Udaan Business Leadership Quiz. In 1991, the BJP government in Rajasthan, which has over 59,000 such entities under its control, the highest of any state, launched the Supurdgi scheme, SUPURDGI, Supurdgi scheme, to hand over these entities to the community for maintenance and upkeep, while the ownership of such properties and income from it remained with the state. What entities am I speaking of? The government in Rajasthan has over 59,000 of it under their control. What entities am I speaking of? Give the answer on Twitter, where the same question has been asked, and come back and we'll take you through the final standings. Right, welcome back one final time here at Udaan's 2022 season, the national final scoreboard on your screen. And there you have it. There was agony as there was ecstasy. There is grimace as there is glory. And there will be lingering sadness as there will be celebrations unbound for our champion for winning an entirely engrossing and absorbing national final. Congratulations to Preetham Upadhya from Barclays, who's won this season of Udaan Business Leadership Quiz. Absolutely phenomenal performance. Started really strong at the start, did more than enough that he did not need to do anything towards the later half of this quiz. And congratulations also to Rohan Khanna from Barclays, the two Barclays participants winning this year's competition. Rohan for an exhilarating performance, keeping Preetham troubled for a brief while. He was nervous for a moment, but when answers came in from elsewhere, Preetham knew that the win was headed in his direction. But Preetham, with his string of answers, never really offered a reprieve, never really offered a moment for others to settle. Very, very, very well done. Towering triumphantly over the others, dwarfing most, if not all, of his quizzing achievements with a win is Preetham, that further extends the legacy of the South Zone, being the home of Udaan champions, furthering their dominance here at Udaan Business Leadership Quiz. It's a wrap for the season then. Well done to the various winners of the audience questions. This was the 12th Udaan Business Leadership Quiz organized by Steel Authority of India Limited, National HRD Network Ranchi Chapter, and National HRD Network in association with IILM University. The national final was the appetizer, the main course, and the dessert, a full meal. It was everything that we hoped. It was everything we expected from the creme de la creme of Indian quizzing. A big thank you to everyone to make this event bring a little bit of joy in everyone's life, to the organizers, the sponsors, the participants, and of course, you, the viewers. Until next time, goodbye, Merry Christmas, and may your storage be full of Happy New Year greetings. Good night. See you next year.